A big year for South Carolina as they are looking to continue their success from 2025 as the Gamecocks get set to kick off against the Virginia Tech Hokies for the 2025 season. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is SEC Live here at the Voice of College Football. I am your host, as always, Lucas Hill. Joining me inside Carolina himself, breaking down all things South Carolina football. We broadcast South Carolina live on that platform as well. Follow them on X at Gamecocks Inside. Dude, good to have you on, my friend. How are you today?
Doing good, man. Doing real good. Glad to be on.
All right, let's get after it, brother. Look, coming off of last year, huge 6-game stretch to end the year at 9 wins. There's a lot of hype around this team that I don't think that you have really seen around South Carolina since the Spurrier era, which we've discussed in great detail. And I think it's very important that you address this because I know it's been a while since you've seen a program like this be in a real contention for a potential playoff / national championship since that era. And I think that it brings in a new level of confidence around Columbia. What have been your overall thoughts just looking at the entirety of this team going into 2025 from what you've seen from spring all the way to fall camp as a whole?
Yeah, man. So obviously South Carolina, they're known for these big years and a great decline the year after. So a lot of fans kind of holding their breath on the hype, and that's understandable. But I feel like this year is a different breed than what we usually put out, and I think Beamer's done a great job, obviously. And when you got Sellers returning, should be better. O-line should be better. Receivers, from everything I've heard, look phenomenal. So everybody, a lot of last year's class enrolled early in January, which is a positive for us. With all the young guys we had come in, we need somebody to step up. So them coming in January definitely helped kind of fill the holes that we're looking at going into this season. But obviously there's still some questions need to be answered, and we'll find that out on August 31st. But I feel better about this team than I have in previous years for sure. So I don't think it's going to be some decline like we had in 2023, but we won't know until we kick it off.
I think the biggest thing between 23 and 25 is that you have an identity on the offensive side of the ball, and you have more consistency on the offensive side of the ball. And I think that comes with having a good array of receivers around you. When Spencer Rattler was in there in 23, you didn't have a standout star at that point in time. And it all starts with week 1 as well. And that typically defines what the season is going to be for South Carolina in years past. You look at what happened 2 years ago, take a loss in North Carolina, a team that 9 times out of 10, in my opinion, you are a much more talented team than them. You shot yourselves in the foot multiple times. Last year against Old Dominion, you win that football game, but you looked sloppy. And I was on a podcast with another guy that you know, and we were talking about how potentially South Carolina could be one of the worst teams in the SEC, and Beamer could be fired at the end of the year. But then you see the resurgence. You finally see Lenore Sellers finally get comfortable in this offense. You start making plays. You keep it close with Alabama. You get your ass screwed over against LSU. But then you go on that 6-game run. What changed between the first part of the season compared to the second part during that 6-game run?
Yeah, man, I think earlier in the year we trying to get, we had a lot of new pieces. Obviously, it was Sellers' first year start, and O-line was switching in and out. We didn't really have the receiving core that we thought we had to begin the year. Defense kind of carried away most of the season. But you could see some of that Oklahoma game, really the Alabama game, where it started clicking for Sellers, and they started to gel better. And we just put it together since the Oklahoma game, and it turned out being one of the greatest runs in Carolina football history.
Compared to previous years?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that 6-game winning streak, man. That had fans high on a high horse there, and we were rightfully so. So,
what was that year where y'all went? Y'all had, was it the black shirt year where y'all went 11-0 to start the season and y'all beat Florida State? Better than that?
Oh yeah, 1984, man. That was we don't like to talk about it a lot around this parts of the woods, but started 9-0, 10-0, lost to Navy. Ended up beating Clemson the following week, and then lost in the bowl game to Oklahoma State. In my lifetime, this is the greatest. Last year was the greatest run in a long time. I mean,
wow.
Obviously, you can point to the 6-0 start back in 2011, 2012, whatever year that was, where we just spanked Georgia 35-7. But it felt like that type of run, and the way it played out, the way the first half of the year played out compared to the second, I felt like in my lifetime that's the greatest run since in my lifetime.
You know what's funny is that I was there that was my very first college football game I've ever attended. I'm an LSU guy. I was at some point. I'm from around Louisiana. My very first college football game, South Carolina against LSU 2012, top 10 battle in Baton Rouge. It's Clowney, it's Connor Shaw going up against Zach frickin' Mettenberger and this LSU offense. And that was a dogfight from start to finish, so I'm glad that you mentioned that. But, man, that's something compared to other years in the Spurrier era and everything in between. Why do you think that there's so much hype compared to this year compared to other years during when you won an SEC East title compared to when you go 3 straight years with an 11-win season? Like, what's been the big difference with what this culture has been compared to those cultures?
That's just the way Beamer created this culture, man, and the way that he's put this team together, and the closeness of the whole team and the fan base, and obviously Lenore Sellers, Dylan Stewart, those type of guys. This team's warranted hype, and I mean, this is the highest preseason rankings we've had since 2014. So, pulling this team all together and everything that goes into it, I think this is the team that's rightfully hyped, and hopefully they don't let us down this year.
Do you think 13 is too high to be in the top in the AP poll, or are they too low?
You know, I see the argument from both sides. Honestly, I could see why people say it's too high, and I could see why people say it's too low. In all reality, preseason rankings really don't matter all that much. I mean, you seen Florida State last year; they were top 10 in the country, and they lost the first 3-4 games. So, preseason rankings don't really matter until you kick it off. So, I think it's just about. I had us at 12, but that's just me. I may have garnet glasses on, but 13 seems about right to me.
You know, when you look overall at this defensive side of the ball, there's just so much to be excited about. I think everybody looks at the defensive line room and you're saying, oh, well, you lost 3 draft picks. You lost the Bednarik Award winner. You lost 2 interior guys that were dominant for you in Tonka Hemingway and TJ Sanders, all 3 of whom have we gotten to see at the Senior Bowl this past year. You obviously talk about you lose almost your entire linebacking core, including the glue of the defense in Demetrius Knight. The defensive back room, though, in my opinion, is probably going to be the strong point with DQ Smith and just the array of talent that's all across the board with Jalen Kilgore as well. I want to directly focus on this defense as a whole. And I want to ask you this. Who do you think could be that Demetrius Knight glue at the end of the day for this defensive side of the ball?
I've been saying this name since he got on campus, and I really think this is a guy to point to this season, and that's J.R. Johnson. He was a stud coming in. He played a little sparingly last year in some games, but I think this is his year to really be take control of the defense and be the leader.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that because, I mean, there's no question in my mind because it's when you look at where he is with J.R. Johnson and you look at the entirety of what he's done just ever since he got on campus. And you're talking about a linebacking core that lost a lot. I know we've talked a lot about the Florida State transfer that, in my opinion, has made the biggest impact since he got on campus. You can help me out with his name. Was it? No. It wasn't Jaron, was it?
No, Sean Murphy.
Sean Murphy. That's who I'm thinking of. Yeah, Sean Murphy, in my opinion, who's been fairly well throughout fall camp. I'm pretty interested that you say J.R. Johnson and just seeing what this kid has. I mean, you talk about a guy that did a lot of good things this past year, saw some flashes of potential. You know, when you look at that as a whole, that linebacking core, even though they do have a lot of question marks, why do you say J.R. Johnson that could potentially be that Demetrius Knight? I know highly rated coming out of high school, number 8 overall linebacker in the country in the class of 24. What is it about J.R. Johnson that separates him from the rest of this linebacking core?
Well, he's been there a little bit longer than some of these guys. He's showed flashes as a freshman, and Clayton White continues to talk about him just like he did. He reminds me of Eamon Worry. When Eamon Worry come in, Clayton White just raves about him. And he said, "We're not taking a step back at linebacker. We're going to be just fine." So I think JR is going to lead the calls. He's going to be the leader of the defense, and it may take a few games to really see that, but I think he's going to be the guy.
Who's been running with the ones at linebacker?
Well, obviously you got JR there, and then you got Sean Murphy, and then the Alabama guy. He's played sparingly there too. Jaron Willis is the name to remember. They got some freshmen that I like too, and Donovan Darden, and a couple of those guys. So, but mainly it's going to be JR and Sean Murphy.
Donovan Darden, I'm surprised they moved him to linebacker. Do you think they'll move him to where down to a defensive line role if he puts on another 10 or 15 pounds? Even though I know he's very rangy as a linebacker right now, but coming off as a edge guy, do you think there's a potential that Clayton White could move him around?
You know, it wouldn't shock me. Clayton's known for moving guys around to the right fit, so it would not shock me one bit.
I do want to ask you this before we let you go, because we do have a couple more things. When you look at the schedule as a whole, what is the most important game for South Carolina going into this year that fans really need to pay attention to and that could define this South Carolina season?
Well, I mean, obviously a lot of people predicting us start 5-0. You get that bye going into LSU. For me, that's the biggest game. It's the revenge game from last year. It's going to set the pace for October is a brutal month. So if you can go into Baton Rouge and get that win, I think that puts a statement on your season. So for me, I'm circling that one. I'm going to say that's the biggest game for our season.
You know, I think that Missouri game really could dictate, just in my opinion, because you get an early look at what you got in SEC play. Obviously, people are going to point to Virginia Tech. I think you should easily cover the spread in that one. I think this is just the beginning of the end for Brent Pry at VT. But I look at that Missouri game, and I'm thinking to myself, you're going on the road in Columbia, Missouri, and you're playing a young roster that has a lot of potential, and many people are saying that, okay, this could be another dark horse 9 or 10 win team for Missouri. You know, it's Eli Drinkwitz and company. But I think if you're able to get a win at Missouri and move on from that, that gives you a lot of confidence. Once you get past Kentucky, you go into the bye so that you can really start prepping for LSU. Because if I'm not saying Missouri is even LSU remotely close. I think that, in my opinion, with what Missouri has on offense and the young talent that they have, it's an opportunity for this South Carolina defense. It's really, in my opinion, the first early test of what they're going to experience with a passing quarterback, whether it be Bo Pribula or whether it be Sam Horn.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
So, a couple more things, and then we'll let you go. I know you got a busy schedule ahead of you. What do you think? What has been over your overall opinion? I know you said the offensive line has significantly shown about the same or even better than what you've seen from last year. We mentioned a couple of guys that have been big impacts. I think, in my opinion, Boaz Stanley is going to be the biggest difference at center, knowing what he brought to the table coming from Ball State. How has this offensive line as a whole progressed throughout this offseason?
I think it's a lot better put together. I mean, you got a good mix of veterans, good mix of youth. Shed Surratt's getting some reps with the ones. He might even start game one at left guard. And then the way we can just move guys around. I mean, Big Trees played all over the O-line. We got a bunch of transfers coming in that can fit in any of them spots if injuries were to happen. So I think I'll put our two deep on the O-line up against anybody in the SEC.
Going to be a fun year for South Carolina. Last one for you real fast. What is your expectation as a whole for South Carolina? I have them going 8-4, maybe 9-3 if you can steal a win. What is your overall hope, overall prediction for South Carolina in 25?
You know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say we're not gonna take a step back like previous years. I think we're gonna take a step forward for once, and I got us on record as 10-2. I don't know how we get there. I don't know who we lose to, but I'm going 10-2 in a college football playoff berth. First one under South Carolina, and that's going to be a big year, I believe. I hope they don't let me down again, but I'm going 10-2.
Hey, to be completely fair with you, I have y'all going 8-4 and freaking beating Bama that same year. So
yeah,
that's just a little hint of it. Hey, Inside Carolina joining us. Follow him on X at Gamecocks Inside. I'm posting some stuff on there. He's posting majority of the stuff on there because he still knows more about Carolina than me. Brother, thank you so much for hopping on Inside and talking some South Carolina football. We will see you very soon.
Yeah, man. Good talking to you.
Thank you guys once again for listening in. This has been SEC Live here at the Voice of College Football. Follow me on X at Lucas Hill SEC. Follow the Voice of College Football at THB. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you all later on in the week. Stay blessed. Don't stress.